Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the All-Merciful, the Ever-Merciful. الذي أنزل على محمد الكتاب, the one who sent down the book upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. May Allah raise his rank and grant him peace. منه آيات محكمات. From that book there are clear and decisive verses. هن أم الكتاب. And they are the essence or the foundation of the book. وأخر متشابهات. And other verses, they are unclear and undecisive in their angle of proof. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ. As for people who have deviance in their hearts, فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ. And they follow after those verses which are unclear. ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله. Seeking fitna, seeking seeking to twist the meanings. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. And no one knows their meanings other than Allah. Al-Alim, Al-Khabir, the all-knowing, the all-informed. Rabb al-Alameen, the Lord of all that exists. وَالصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. And we ask him to raise the rank of his messenger Muhammad. وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. And upon, may he raise the rank of his family and companions and grant them all an abundance of peace. Welcome back to Troid Radio. And we are now in our fourth session of our studies of the book Kashf ash-Shubuhaat, the exposition of the grave worshippers' points of confusion or points of argumentation, by the great scholar of Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala. And we're reading from the text of the book, as the book in its actual approach is very detailed in and of itself, not leaving a lot of room for or a lot of need for explanation, unlike some of his other books which give us a structure and that we need the scholars to explain those books. This book is one of those books that reading the text of the book alone is a great benefit. And then you can add some benefit from some of the words of the scholars here and there, but the generality of the book is that it itself is an explanation of a very small number of points. So previously in our third session last night, by Allah's grace and permission, we came together and we learned from the author of the book how to handle the arguments of the mushrikeen in a general way, with a general refutation. And that response included that we return all affairs back to the book of Allah and the clarity of the book of Allah, the decisive, clear proofs of the book of Allah, and all of their unclear angles of argumentation, all of their proofs which don't have a precise and clear proof in them. They are all to be returned to the muhkamat, to the clear verses that no one can argue about. And we gave a couple examples of that and we studied them. Now we'll continue reading the book and we'll take some more pages from this fantastic book, insha'Allah ta'ala. And you might remember that the author introduced two different ways to answer the doubts of the grave worshipping fanatics and the sympathizers and those who would seek to either justify or minimalize the acts of worship done directed to other than Allah at grave sites specifically. And we said there's a general way, and the Shaykh discussed that, and specific ways, point by point, argument by argument. And we mentioned in that reading that the book of Allah is comprehensive in its nature, containing proofs against each and every shubha that anyone could bring against the Quran. We'll read now a few, in fact 4 today, insha'Allah ta'ala, 4 of the arguments that are common on the tongues of those who would defend, justify, or minimalize the acts of worship and of excessiveness. done at grave sites, like calling on those besides Allah as intercessors or intermediaries. The author says, وَأَمَّا الْجَوَابُ الْمُفَصَّلِ As for the detailed answer, فَإِنَّ أَعْدَاءَ اللَّهِ لَهُمْ اعْتِرَاضَاتٌ كَثِيرَةٌ Then you should know that the enemies of Allah, they have a number of arguments, a large number of arguments, of points of argumentation, على دين الرسل, points of contention against the religion of the messengers. يصدون بها الناس عنه. They use these arguments to divert the people away from that path, the path of Allah. Minha, and now he begins one by one. We're going to get our detailed answers for the individual arguments of the mushrikeen who defend their shirk, justify it, or minimalize it. Minha qawluhum, their statement, نحن لا نشرك بالله. And we're referring to people who would call upon who? The Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, either the human one or the angel one, meaning a messenger of Allah like Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or an angel messenger like Jibreel. They would call upon those less than Allah with their arguments. And they say with this argument, لا نشرك بالله. We do not commit shirk with Allah. بل نشهد أنه لا يخلق ولا يرزق. Rather, we testify openly that no one creates, no one provides, وَلَا يَنْفَعُ وَلَا يَضُرُّ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and no one can benefit or harm anyone except Allah. وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ, alone, having no partners in any of that. So that's a statement of Tawheed, isn't it? That's their argument. We have Tawheed. We're not on Shirk, we're on Tawheed. وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا, they go on saying or explaining how they do not commit shirk. They say, وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا sallallahu alayhi wasallam, may Allah raise his rank and grant him peace, لَا يَمْلِكُ لِنَفْسِهِ نَفْعًا وَلَا ضَرًّا, he does not possess the ability to help his own self nor harm himself. That sounds like Tawheed. That sounds like all of the affairs with Allah. Everything sounds good, right? Here's their argument. It goes on, فَضْلًا عَنْ عَبْدِ الْقَادِرِ أَوْ غَيْرِهِ. Even, and of course, if that's the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then what about anyone else that we would call upon besides Allah, like Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, or any of the other righteous people that they would call upon, seeking nearness to Allah? So, of course, if the messenger himself, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is not able to harm or benefit anyone, then everyone less than him, min babi awla, in a much more obvious way, will not be able to help us or benefit us. So then they're saying, look, we believe that only harm and benefit is from Allah, nobody else. They're trying to show that they are upon Tawheed. They continue their argument saying, وَلَكِنْ أَنَا مُذْنِبٌ. They say, however, I'm a sinful person. I've got sins. وَالصَّالِحُونَ لَهُمْ جَاهٌ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. The righteous, they have status with Allah, meaning closeness because of their righteous lives. وَأَطْلُبُ مِنَ اللَّهِ بِهِمْ. And I'm only seeking something from Allah by way of them. So I'm not committing shirk. I'm only worshipping Allah. I only want something from Allah. That's their argument. Now, فَجَاوِبْهُ. Our Shaykh, the great author Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab al-Tamimi, rahimahullah ta'ala, says here, جاوبه, give him a response. This is the response, بما تقدم. What we have said earlier. What have we said earlier? That what? Regarding the ما نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى, that the mushrikeen mentioned in the Quran by Allah, that they would say, we only worship them to draw nearer to Allah. That's what's already preceded in our previous lessons, right? And they used to say, what did they used to say? هؤلاء شفعاؤنا عند الله. Such people are our intercessors. Those we call upon are our intercessors with Allah. Meaning the mushrikun used to worship Allah and intend Allah by taking these intermediaries and objects of worship besides Allah to draw nearer to Allah. So respond with that, with the verses that we have mentioned regarding that from Surah Yunus and the other verse as well. Respond with that and add this, وَهُوَ أَنَّ الَّذِينَ, or this it is, وَأَنَّ الَّذِينَ قَاتَلَهُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ sallallahu alayhi wasallam, those who fought, or those who the Messenger of Allah, may Allah raise his rank and grant him peace, fought against, مُقِرُّونَ بِمَا ذَكَرْتَ, they agree and they have the same beliefs as what you have mentioned. وَمُقِرُّونَ بِأَنَّ أَوْثَانَهُمْ لَا تُدَبِّرُ شَيْئًا, and they agreed and they are on the same page, they have the same agreement or same belief that their idols that they worshipped besides Allah had no control over anything. وَإِنَّمَا أَرَادُوا الْجَاهَ وَالشَّفَاعَةَ, they only wanted the status of those righteous people and the intercession of those righteous people. وَقْرَأَ عَلَيْهِ مَا ذَكَرَ اللَّهُ فِي كِتَابِهِ وَوَضَّحَهُ, and mention to them what Allah has mentioned in His book and clarify the meaning to them. And those are the verses being referred to that I mentioned to you just now. Second argument. So the first argument is, they say what? I don't commit shirk. I am not a mushrik. I don't commit shirk. I am upon Tawheed. And then he goes on to describe what he does. And he says that I only request from these people intercession with Allah. That's all I ask for. I don't ask for anything from them specifically, from them personally. I know they can't help me or hurt me. This is their argument to say that they don't make shirk. Tell them about the same act being committed by the people of shirk of Jahiliyyah, and Allah named it shirk, and Allah sent His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to call those people away from that and to fight them over it until Allah Ta'ala alone is worshipped. طيب. Second argument by the people of shirk. Second argument by the people of shirk. Please close the door. فإن قال هؤلاء الآيات نزلت في من يعبد الأصنام. If it's said that those verses have been revealed regarding people who worshipped idols, كيف تجعلون الصالحين مثل الأصنام? How can you make righteous people similar to idols? Those verses were revealed about idol worship. We're calling on saints and walis and righteous people. How are you going to make them like the same issue? That's their argument, right? كيف تجعلون الأنبياء أصناما? How are you going to consider prophets to be idols? As if to say you have no respect for prophets. How would you say that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an idol? فَجَاوِبْهُ بِمَا تَقَدَّمَ. Then respond to him with what has preceded. فَإِنَّهُ إِذَا أَقَرَّ أَنَّ الْكُفَّارِ, for if he could possibly agree and understand that the kuffar, the disbelievers, يَشْهَدُونَ بِالرُّبُوبِيَّةِ كُلِّهَا لِلَّهِ, that they openly testified that all of the rights of rububiyyah and all of the descriptions of rububiyyah, which include creating, giving life, giving death, providing, taking care of the affairs of the heavens and the earth, if they agreed that those affairs were uniquely and solely for Allah, وَأَنَّهُمْ مَا أَرَادُوا مِمَّنْ قَصَدُوا إِلَّا الشَّفَاعَةِ, and that they only wanted, with what they were doing, with who they were calling upon, only intercession, intermediaries between them and Allah. That's all they wanted. So respond to them with that, right? However, وَلَكِنْ إِذَا أَرَادَ أَنْ يُفَرِّقَ بَيْنَ فِعْلِهِمْ وَفِعْلِهِ بِمَا ذَكَرَهُ, if a person wants to differentiate between what they were doing and what the person is doing, calling upon the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَاذْكُرْ لَهُ أَنَّ الْكُفَارَ مِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَدْعُ الصَّالِحِينَ وَالْأَصْنَامِ. Then mention to them that in reality, There were kuffar, disbelievers, that were calling upon righteous people as well as idols. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَدْعُ الْأَوْلِيَاءَ الَّذِينَ قَالَ اللَّهُ فِيهِمْ. And there were those that were worshipping or calling upon the righteous and the close servants, or the servants who are close to Allah, meaning after their death. الَّذِينَ قَالَ اللَّهُ فِيهِمْ, those whom Allah Ta'ala had spoken about, saying, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ يَبْتَغُونَ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ الْوَسِيلَةَ أَيُّهُمْ أَقْرَبُ. Those are the ones that they call upon, seeking a wasila, seeking an intercession between them and their Lord. أَيُّهُمْ أَقْرَبُ, which of them are closer? From Surah Al-Isra, the 57th verse. وَيَدْعُونَ عِيسَى ibn Maryam وَأُمَّهُ, and they called upon Isa, the son of Mary, and his mother. وَقَدْ قَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى, whilst Allah the Most High had said, مَا الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. The Messiah, the son of Mary, was but a messenger, and many messengers had passed before him. وَأُمُّهُ صِدِّيقَةٌ, and his mother was an upright or devoutly truthful woman. كَانَا يَأْكُلَانِ الطَّعَامِ, they used to both eat food, meaning they have a human deficiency, not deserving of worship. Allah Ta'ala continues to say, انظر كيف نبين لهم الآيات. Look at how we explain to them and expound upon these ayat, these verses. ثم انظر أنا يؤفكون. Then look at how they have been led astray, how they have been deluded. قُلْ أَتَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا نَفْعًا. Say, are you going to worship those less than Allah, who cannot do anything for you? They don't own any harm or benefit for you. وَاللَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. While Allah, He is the all-hearing and the all-knowing. That's from Surah Al-Ma'idah, 75th and 76th verses. وَاذْكُرْ لَهُ قَوْلَهُ تَعَالَى, and also mention the statements of Allah the Most High. وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ نَقُولُ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ أَهَؤُلَاءِ إِيَّاكُمْ كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ. On the day then we will gather, on the day where Allah is talking about the day when we will gather all of them together, with no exception, all of them. And we shall say to the angels, were these people offering acts of worship to you? Allah will address the angels, saying, were you objects of worship for these people? قَالُوا سُبْحَانَكَ أَنْتَ وَلِيُّنَا مِن دُونِهِمْ. They will say, declaring themselves free of those actions, glorified be you. You are our protector, not them. بَلْ كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَ الْجِنِّ. Nay, they were worshipping the jinn. أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِهِمْ مُؤْمِنُونَ. And most of them were believers in the jinn. From Surah Saba. وَقَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى, and the statement of Allah, read this to them as well. وَإِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ أَأَنْتَ قُلْتَ لِلنَّاسِ اتَّخِذُونِي وَأُمِّي إِلَهَيْنِ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. And when Allah will say to Isa, Ya Isa, the son of Mary, did you say to the people, take me and my mother as two objects of worship besides Allah? قَالَ سُبْحَانَكَ. The response of the believer whenever shirk is mentioned. Subhanallah. Allah be glorified and exonerated above that. Anytime unbefitting speech is mentioned about Allah, your statement should be tasbih. Sabbih Allah. And declare Allah above that. Declare Allah to be glorified and exonerated above false claims. Here's Isa responding, Subhanaka ma yakunu li an aqulu ma laysa li bihaqqin. It's not for me, Subhanallah, exalted be you, it's not for me to say something I have no right to say. In kuntu qultuhu faqad alimta. Had I said it, then you surely would have known it. Had I said it, then surely you would know it. Ta'lamu ma fi nafsi. Jesus says to Allah on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you know what is within me. وَلَا أَعْلَمُ مَا فِي نَفْسِكَ. And I don't know what's within you. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ عَلَّامُ الْغُيُوبِ. You verily are the all-knowing of all hidden matters, of all unseen affairs. From Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 116th verse. فَقُلْ لَهُ أَعَرَفْتَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ كَفَّرَ مَنْ قَصَدَ الْأَصْنَامِ. Say to them, do you not recognize that Allah declared those who intended the idols as objects of worship to be disbelievers? وَكَفَّرَ أَيْضًا مَنْ قَصَدَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And He also declared anyone who called upon, intending or focusing on with their call, with their supplication, the righteous people who had passed, those were also declared by Allah to be disbelievers. وَقَاتَلَهُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam fought them. فَإِنْ قَالَ. This is the end of that argument. And to summarize that, right? What is it? They say, how can you make the prophets and the righteous people undeserving of our act of seeking intercession? How do you make them like idols? How do you declare them to be idols when they were righteous? How do you attach a negative idea to them, right? When they are righteous and close to Allah. The argument is that, firstly, calling upon other than Allah is shirk. Secondly, that even the people of Jahiliyyah were calling upon righteous people. They were calling upon righteous people who worshipped Allah alone. They were calling upon dead people besides Allah. They were calling on angels and they were calling upon prophets. Of course, who's more obedient than angels? Angels only obey Allah Ta'ala. لَا يَعْسُونَ اللَّهَ فِي مَا أَمْرَهُمْ. They never disobey Allah in anything that they've been ordered to do. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. And they do everything they've been told. So, does that mean now it's okay to call upon angels because they're obedient and righteous? So you nullify their argument with the verses that talk about Allah, the verses that mention Allah addressing the angels on Yawm al-Qiyamah, asking if the angels were pleased, basically, that they were taken as objects of worship, and they will declare themselves free of that, and asking Isa ibn Maryam if he invited to or was pleased with the people's worship of him besides Allah, or his mother, and he will declare himself and his mother free of these acts of polytheism. So mention these as the second response to their second argument. The third argument, and we're looking at today 4 arguments. The third argument, فَإِنْ قَالَ الْكُفَّارُ يُرِيدُونَ مِنْهُمْ وَأَنَا أَشْهَدُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ النَّافِعُ الضَّارُّ الْمُدَبِّرُ. If he says that the kuffar wanted things from those intercessors, they wanted things from those who they called upon directly, they wanted things from them personally, right? وَأَنَا أَشْهَدُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ النَّافِعُ الضَّارُّ الْمُدَبِّرُ. And I want you to pay attention to this argument very closely, people in the West. Because you may be tried by an issue just like this that you don't know is coming to you. That someone might say to you, there's a difference when you call upon the Messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam, pay close attention. Someone may say to you in the near future, or someone may have already said it to you, that there are 2 types of calling upon the Messenger of Allah. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. One type is when you believe that he can give you something himself, when he can help you or hurt you. He can give you what you're asking for directly from himself. That is shirk. And they say the other category is also not permissible. Some of them say it's not permissible, some of them say it's allowed. But the point is they all agree that it's not shirk. That we can call upon the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but not ask him for anything directly, asking him only to intercede for us with Allah, asking him to be an intermediary with us, between us and Allah. Notice that's the argument here. The third argument resembles what we might hear, what we may have already heard today in this time right in front of us, 200 years, more than 200 years after the writing of this book. It goes on to be of very important benefit, very relevant to the people and their needs. May Allah Ta'ala have mercy on the author and bless him and raise his status. If they say, I am someone, I bear witness that Allah, He is the only one who helps, the only one who can give benefit, the only one who can harm, the only one who controls the affairs. And the kuffar, they wanted what? They wanted things from their objects of supplication besides Allah. لا أريد إلا منه. I don't want anything except that it's from Allah alone. وَالصَّالِحُونَ لَيْسَ لَهُم مِّنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٍ. And the righteous people that I call upon, they have nothing to do with it. They can't help me or hurt me. وَلَكِنْ أَقْصُدُهُمْ أَرْجُو مِنَ اللَّهِ شَفَاعَتَهُم. However, I focus my supplication to them. I deliver my request to them for them to deliver it to Allah, seeking their intercession with Allah, only seeking the help from Allah alone. فَالْجَوَابِ. You might already know the answer based on the generalities of the book so far, right? You probably have a good idea of what the answer will be if you've been paying attention. أَنَّ هَذَا قَوْلُ الْكُفَّارِ سَوَاءً بِسَوَاءٍ. The answer is, that's the statement of the disbelievers, exactly, not a bit of difference. Precisely word for word. You over there, you paying attention? Important, very important. They say, the kuffar they wanted something from their objects of dua. They called upon people who are righteous and they wanted something from them. And we don't do that. We only want something from Allah. And people today are saying that. So the Shaykh said, that is precisely, exactly, word for word the claim of the kuffar before Islam came. Oh, فَقْرَ عَلَيْهِ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى. Read to them the statement of Allah the Most High. And I remind you, just before I say this, the Shaykh told us earlier in this book, an Ami, remember, one common person could defeat 1,000 scholars of misguidance. Look at how the argument goes right down the drain with one ayat from the book of Allah. Watch it. Read upon them, the one who makes this argument, the statement of Allah the Most High, وَالَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَا إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. The people, those who took protectors, allies beside Allah, meaning in acts of worship by calling upon them, they said, مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ. We don't worship them. They knew it was ibadah. لاحظوا, did you notice? They said, مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا. We only worship them in order to. They recognized what they were doing was ibadah. Yet the people who claim Islam as their religion are doing the same thing. And they say, no, that's not ibadah. It's shafa'ah, it's tawassul, it's wasila, it's this and that, but it's not ibadah because my ibadah is only for Allah. We'll come to that discussion, insha'Allah ta'ala, later. But this one here is those who have taken awliya besides Allah. They say, we only worship them to draw us nearer to Allah. Meaning, we only want as a goal, the real hadaf, the real goal, the real objective is closeness to Allah only. That's from Surah what? Az-Zumar, the 3rd verse. وَقَوْلَهُ تَعَالَى. And also read this verse. وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And they were saying, the disbelievers, the polytheists, they were saying, these are our intercessors with Allah. Meaning, these are the ones who get us close to Allah. These are our mediums between us and Allah. These are our intermediaries, not the goal of our worship. These are just a path that we take. That's from Surah Yunus, that 2nd verse, number 18. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ هَذِهِ الشُّبَهِ الثَّلَاث هي أكبر ما عندهم فإذا عرفت أن الله وضحها في كتابه. Then know that these first 3 arguments that we've discussed just now, they're the greatest arguments they have. That's it. These are the biggest arguments they have. فإذا عرفت أن الله وضحها في كتابه. And if you know that Allah has clarified these issues right in His book, وَفَهِمْتَهَا فَهْمًا جَيِّدًا, and you've understood them with a good solid understanding, فَمَا بَعْدَهَا أَيْسَرُ مِنْهَا. And everything else after this is going to be easier. All of the rest of the arguments should be even easier to handle. So we've handled today 3, and our time is over, and I had more planned for today, but we'll stop here since we've reached the time limit for today's lesson, and we'll allow a moment or two for comments, questions, corrections regarding this lesson of ours today, insha'Allah ta'ala. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. طيب, regarding, just before I take today's questions, yesterday a question was sent about the claimed action of Bilal ibn al-Harith. And as I mentioned to you, I'm not a hafiz, and I had to research that issue. And after researching it, we find that that is one of the biggest arguments of the biggest claimants or biggest followers of Sufism today, those that call the people directly to worship other than Allah by calling upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Their argument is what? They say, in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, there was a drought. And at the time of the drought, there was a man who went to the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, allegedly Bilal ibn al-Harith, a companion. No foundation for that, total falsehood. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, he said, O Messenger of Allah, istasqi li ummatik fa innahum qad halaku. O Messenger of Allah, seek rain for your nation because they're dying from this drought, right? So right away you say, okay, if that's authentic, and that's authentic from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then one of two cases. Either there are obvious contradictions in the religion of Islam, or everything that we've learned from this book has been total falsehood. So which one is it? Well, we have to say first and foremostly, as narrated, that is not a story that is authentic, nor does it have anything to do with any of the companions. The story that has been actually narrated is not authentic, first of all, by three problems in the chain. It's been narrated in the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba, and not in the sources mentioned by the Sufis, who are not reliable in their approach to the books of hadith. There's claims from the Sufis that the hadith was collected by al-Bukhari, that the hadith was collected by Ibn Khuzaymah, that the hadith was collected by al-Hakim. And what makes al-Hakim, and they intend Bukhari outside of his Sahih, what makes the claim that the hadith is found in al-Hakim's Mustadrak and Ibn Khuzaymah's Sahih is that these are books of authentic narrations. That when the author mentioned hadith in these books, then they were assumed, or they were judged to be by the author authentic. Therefore, these hadith have to be accepted. So it is not found in the sources quoted by the Sufi proponents of calling upon the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, it's found in the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba, which is a book of Athar, and it's not a book that contains only authentic hadith, so the chain needs judged. They say, Ibn Hajar mentioned it and referred to it. Ibn Hajar called it Sahih al-Isnad. It has an authentic chain. Ibn Hajar was a big hadith scholar, and they feel they have something strong. And with most of the people, they would say, okay, we'll give that one to you, whatever that hadith is, it must be okay, because Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani died 852, the author of Fath al-Bari, the explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari, and they start talking about how great Ibn Hajar was. And all it is ittiba' zallat, following after the mistakes of the scholars. If Ibn Hajar said it's Sahih, then every Muslim has the right to follow up and look at the chain. Every Muslim who knows how to judge a chain can follow up and verify if it's indeed Sahih. As sihha and da'af, authenticity and weakness, as it relates to a chain, is something you can touch and work with. It's an academic skill that you can learn. Scholars of today and hadith researchers are able to distinguish between authentic chains and unauthentic chains. We're not blind followers of the people who came before us, and so Ibn Hajar said it's Sahih, I have no right to look at the chain. Open your eyes. The chain has Salih, or Abu Salih, narrating from Malik ad-Dar. And Malik ad-Dar is the one who said a man went to the grave of the Prophet, allegedly. Malik ad-Dar is, his reliability as a narrator has not been established, quite simply. Even if it's been said that he was the one who was responsible for some of the storage in the time of Umar the Khalifa. Omar putting someone in charge of storage, food storage, does not mean that Omar considered him to be a reliable narrator of hadith. That's another issue. We have no indication that this Malik ad-Dar was a Sahabi. Rather, what seems to be very clear, that he was a tabi'i. So where's the connection to the Sahaba at all? It's in the dream that goes in the hadith, in the narration, that allegedly, after we say, first of all, the three problems in the chain, is that Abu Salih is not clear that he heard from this Malik ad-Dar. Malik ad-Dar himself is not reliable, has not been proven to be reliable with the hadith, and then we don't know who this man that he's talking about is in the story. We don't know if he's a companion or another tabi'i. If he's a tabi'i, we need to judge him by the scales of Jarh and Ta'dil as well. So we have three problems. Any one of them would be enough to say we may not rely on this as a proof in Islam. Take that and compare it to the statement of Ibn Hajar that the isnad is sahih. And in fact, these defects in the chain could be actualized, we'll say at least two of them, could be understood by beginning students of knowledge in hadith. Not very advanced issues. The idea that Malik ad-Dar was not reliable, that's an easy issue of jahala. Other issues, whether Abu Salih heard from Malik, that's something that needs investigation by specialists. However, there are, clear issues that there's a mubham, someone who's not named in the story, and we rely on him because he's narrating a dream from the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said allegedly, convey to Umar that the ummah shall receive rain, which would be, if you've understood the dream to be legislation now, which is a common Sufi habit, dreams are legislation, then we would say that he approved of this act of shirk. Or we couldn't call it shirk anymore, we'd have to call it tawassul shar'i, the legislated way of taking an intermediary. However, since the story has not been established by any authentic chain, and the exact meaning of the story is entirely contradictory to the Tawheed that Allah sent His messengers to call the people to, then in no way could we accept that as a proof in our religion. Not sanadan and not matnan, not by the chain and not by the wording of the story. So that rejects the story from the last evening, or last evening's question, and I'll look at today's questions now, insha'Allah ta'ala. Tayyib, sorry for the delay. Some of the people of desires who seek to find evidence for revolting against the Muslim rulers claim that Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab revolted. Is this true? Allah Ta'ala knows best. Question number 2, is it permissible to leave the masjid in order to buy food if there is no food at the masjid to eat for those in i'tikaf? Yes, absolutely. That's a need. You may leave the masjid for any need while in i'tikaf. You may leave the masjid to use the bathroom. And you must leave the masjid to use the bathroom, or not you may. So it's wajib for you to leave the masjid to use the bathroom, as there is no bathroom in the masjid. And if you're confused, you say, wait a minute, we have a bathroom in our masjid. No, you have a bathroom attached to the building where the masjid is. But that is not the masjid. Tayyib. Secondly, it's permissible for you to leave for any need, any necessity. Right? And to attend to that necessity, whether it's eating or drinking or helping your mother with something that can be done quickly and you come back, meaning in a way that's wajib upon you and no one else could do it, and so on. To go and take care of a need, someone desperately seeking your help outside the masjid or something, you go and take care of the need, the necessity, fulfill it and come back, and your i'tikaf is valid and uninterrupted, insha'Allah ta'ala. Number 3, did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam raise his hands during qunut in Ramadan while making dua? The answer is yes, he did. As understood by the companions, sometimes he raised his hands, and some of the companions exemplifying this sunnah raised their hands throughout the salat in the qunut, and some of them raised their hands for part of the qunut, and some of them did that in the beginning of Ramadan, and others did it later in Ramadan. You can find a summary of the detailed study of the issue of raising the hands in qunut on a summarized post on SalafiTalk.net, the older Salafi Talk, where by Allah's permission I summarized some of the research done by my Shaykh Muhammad Umar Bazmool Hafidhahullah Ta'ala on the topic. In a very excellent research he did. I posted basically his most important conclusions from that research, and you can review it there. We've heard that it's, number 4, we've heard that it's permissible to ask someone else to make dua for us, while knowing that he does not possess any attributes of Allah, that he's nothing but a slave of Allah. However, is it better not to ask anyone else and to have tawakkul in Allah after making dua yourself? The answer is yes, it's better not to ask anyone else. One of the ways to paradise is not to ask anyone for anything. And our Prophet ﷺ told us in the hadith of the 70,000 يدخلون الجنة بغير حساب ولا عذاب, and they enter paradise with no hisab, no accountability, and no adhab, no punishment. They are الذين لا يتطيرون ولا يكتوون ولا يسترقون وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. They are the people who do not believe in omens. They are the people who do not use the kay. They do not use the iron to heat their skin to distract the pain or as a medical treatment. Cauterizing, I believe it's called in English. And they do not seek a ruqya from someone else. Ruqya is tawheed, ikhwani, akhawati. Ruqya is tawheed. When someone reads Quran upon you, asking Allah alone, that's an action of what? Tawheed, not an action of shirk or a deficiency in tawheed. But you requesting that is less virtuous than you being patient and making the ruqya yourself. So one of the descriptions of the people who go to paradise with no account are those who have not sought a ruqya from another person. وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ, and they put their complete trust in their Lord. طيب, in the Prophet's masjid, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, over 10 years ago, I heard Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan explain that hadith from his lessons in Kitab al-Tawheed there, and he said that the meaning of la yastarqun is la yas'alun an-nasa ar-ruqya, right? They don't ask the people for the ruqya because لأن السؤال مذموم, because asking others for things is madhmoom, it's blameworthy. So the completeness of a person's tawheed is that what? He relies upon himself. He relies upon Allah, and then he relies upon his own actions in worship of Allah, his own dua, his own supplication, his own ruqya, his own recitation of the Quran and so on, and he draws near to Allah with that. And that's better for him than asking other people to make dua. But it's permissible to ask other people to make dua. You would note that Umar ibn Khattab asked Abbas to make dua, but not for Umar specifically, for the ummah. They used to ask Abbas because he was the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was very righteous, because he was a companion, because of his status. They used to ask Abbas to make dua while he was alive, right? While he was alive. They used to ask him to make dua for the ummah, not for themselves individually. So if you asked someone to make dua for the Muslims, for example, in Syria, then this is not blameworthy, while you yourself make firm dua for your brothers and sisters who are facing hardships there. You asking another Muslim to remember them and to make dua for them is not a violation of your tawheed, nor a deficiency in your tawheed. But you asking someone to make dua for you and to come read a ruqya, read Quran on you when you're sick, that's leaving what is better, which is to read the ruqya yourself and to ask Allah Ta'ala yourself. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. Question number 6. I hear that there is a narration that states one can fulfill his need from the vessel that is in his hand if the second adhan for Fajr goes. Is this narration authentic? And if so, how do we understand it? Do we empty the cup or the bowl, or do we take one more sip of the drink and stop after one more sip? You do not put the cup down, as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, until you have fulfilled your need from it. That's authentic from him. You can review our classes on the fiqh of Siyam that are available on the Troid.ca website as a free download. May Allah Ta'ala bless our brothers for all of their diligent work in propagating correct teachings in Islam, and may Allah Ta'ala forgive me and them for our mistakes. Now, so please review our lessons there. We have I've discussed that in some detail there with statements from the scholars. Question number 7. Here in Canada, most of the Muslims follow calendars and break their fast and begin their fast based on these calendars. Here at Troyd, we have this calendar. However, to be safe, we make the adhan for Fajr 10 minutes after what it says on the calendar. Do we continue eating until the adhan, or do we follow the calendar? Also, it's still dark outside and at that time, and it's difficult to see the white thread in the sky due to us living in a large city with many lights that make it difficult to detect the white thread in the sky. So what do we do in such a situation? There's an article as well that I wrote about the prayer schedules and some benefits and rulings regarding the prayer schedules. You can review that. That if you are praying Fajr later, any later than the time, that's not the problem. The problem is when you pray Fajr according to the prayer schedule and the sky is totally black. And you say, well, the prayer schedule is accurate. And we should say in response to that, apparently not. If the sky is totally black, this is what you worship Allah with. The sign of Fajr is that the first light that comes up, like the light of dawn, the first real true light of the dawn that you see, not a little crack of dawn, like a little tail or a little white line that comes up. That's called the crack of dawn, maybe. That's called the Fajr al-Kadhib, al-Fajr al-Kadhib, the false Fajr. That's not the beginning of Fajr. Fajr is when the horizon begins to have the light of dawn, the true light of dawn there. That is the entrance of Fajr. Whether the prayer schedule says that or is off by 10, 20, or even 30 minutes, I would be very careful in using prayer schedules that you, as a community, have not checked. Why? Because you're basing your worship of Allah on taqleed in this case, aren't you? You're saying, I make taqleed of the schedule because I can't do any better. Wallahi, if you looked at the sky and waited for the first light to come up, would your deen be deficient? Would you have a need for taqleed? No. So, and I would like to point out here that the times of Isha and Fajr specifically, Maghrib is very clear. Maghrib is a precise time. The dish of the sun goes under the horizon. It's not a big opportunity for differing except on a really cloudy day or when the horizon is obscured. But the Fajr and Isha is a time that can vary from day to day. It is not set like what it is set in those calendars. On a very bright day, the Maghrib will last longer and the sky will remain brighter because it's a very bright day. And Isha will come in much later. On a very dark day, it's a dark and gloomy day, you'll find that the sky after Fajr will go dark significantly faster, and you will see total blackness perhaps 20 minutes before you would have seen it on another day. For those of you who care about the signs of Allah and that which we have been requested to worship Him based on, you'll find that there's a difference in the time of Isha. And I mean those of you who checked it outside of the city, away from the bright lights and all of that, you'll find that from day to day, the time of Isha is different. The same thing with Fajr. A very, very bright day will start with an early Fajr. A very, very dark day, possibly you would not notice the sun approaching and you wouldn't see any light from it on that dark day until later. So the time of Isha and the time of Fajr, that's determined by eyesight, that's determined by the vision, is something that is not stable in every day at the same exact time or 1 minute later or earlier depending on the schedule. So I'd advise you to be aware of the accuracy of a schedule before you rely upon it. If the schedule is accurate, then even with that, Fajr and Isha have a little variation in them. And it shouldn't be that the prayer schedules are relied upon absolutely. I mention this because I remember years ago in America, there were brothers coming out of a masjid while the sun had not set yet. And we were coming to the masjid, me and some brothers, to pray Maghrib. And we were a bit early, and we saw the sun. It was up in the sky about 15 minutes before sunset. Yes. So a group of brothers came out, and they informed us that we had missed the salah. And so we said, no, we are here for Maghrib. Maybe we missed Asr in the masjid here, but we are here for Maghrib. And they said, no, you just missed Maghrib. And they were serious. And so we simply gestured to the sun in the sky. And they looked a little confused. And one of them said, I'm going to go show you the prayer schedule, Akhi. And they really believe that the prayer schedule, despite the sun being in the sky, might have something to do with the correctness of their salat. We know in this kind of case, and the reason for that, to go a little background behind that story, the reason was why they have this daylight savings time that happens, or this change in the clocks that happens twice in America, twice a year. And so on the first day, you find many people are confused because the relativity between the prayer schedules and the actual clock is off by an hour now. So I don't remember if it was spring or fall, but these brothers had already prayed based on the time being the same as yesterday for Maghrib. And the time had actually changed. Some people had changed the clocks because of that daylight savings time issue. Tayyib. So you would think that everybody would be really clear in a situation like this, that yes, we have made a mistake, and of course that Maghrib could not have been acceptable. Because why? We know from the shurut of the salat is what? Dukhul al-waqt, right? The entrance of the time. So anyone who makes Maghrib clearly before the sun sets, then his Maghrib cannot be acceptable, as the time for Maghrib has not even come in. Yet, some of our brothers were using as a proof the prayer schedule to justify or to say that we've done everything right. And Allah Ta'ala did not reveal the prayer schedule. Allah did not send a prophet with the prayer schedule. Allah Ta'ala gave knowledge and insight to some of His creation to study the stars and the heavenly bodies and to come up with observations. And this is a result of human efforts. And it's many times mistaken because it's human. It's not revelation from Allah. وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Had it been, meaning had this Quran been from other than Allah, they would have found much contradictions in it. Meaning, that which is from other than Allah must have contradictions in it. That which is from Allah must be unified in its meaning, accurate, truthful, non-contradictory, because it's from Allah, Al-Alim, Al-Khabir, the all-knowing, the all-aware. What is from other than Allah must be subject to being mistaken, as is the case with the prayer schedules. So be wary of relying on something as if it is revelation from Allah. Use those prayer schedules, if they are accurate, as guides only. And do not go against the signs that you see in front of you. Do not go against this. Don't say, I'm going to pray Maghrib because of the prayer schedule and the sun is in the sky. Do not say, I'm going to pray Fajr because the prayer schedule says it's in, and you see a totally pitch black sky. No indication that Fajr has come in. Do not say, I'm going to pray Dhuhr, and the sun has not yet reached its zenith. Because Dhuhr comes in after the sun reaches its highest point and begins to come down. That is the beginning of Dhuhr, and so on. Do not reject the clear signs that Allah has given you for the 5 salah. And what are they? Fajr is when we mentioned the first crack of, not the crack of dawn, but the first light of the dawn starts to glow and starts to appear on the horizon. Dhuhr is when the sun has passed its peak and is beginning to decline. Asr is the halfway point between that and Maghrib, meaning the sun has reached its halfway between the zenith and the setting of the sun, which is halfway through the afternoon hours. And there's some differing with that. The Hanafis believe that it comes in later than that. And Maghrib is with the sun setting, and Isha is with what? All of the light of the sunset. Every last red glow and every last color of the sunset is gone, and the sky is pitch black, night sky. Then it is Isha time. And these are the legislated times for the salat. If a prayer schedule gives you these times and guides you to these times, and on days when you cannot see anything that you hope that this is accurate based on its accuracy of the other days, then wabiha wa ni'ma. And the scholars have spoken in favor of using prayer schedules as guides without believing them to be absolutely perfect or irrefutable, in the absence of the ability to see the signs of the times for salat by yourself. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. Number 8, how do you respond to the one who says, I call upon Jesus because he did die, meaning he did not die, and he is alive? Tayyib. How do you respond to the one who calls upon Jesus because he did not die and he's alive? Now, clear. Tayyib, what's your proof that he can hear you? Do you believe that he is a Sami' al-Alim, that he is all-knowing and all-hearing? Do you ascribe to him that which is with Allah of attributes? Allah Ta'ala hears every supplication you say. What is your proof that Isa hears you? Calling upon someone who does not hear you is an act of shirk. As mentioned, there are 3 conditions for calling upon someone for help: that he is alive, present, and capable. So you might say, okay, Isa is alive, and he's capable of asking Allah for me, if I take him as an intercessor. But what is your proof that Isa ibn Maryam hears your supplication? Do you give Isa the same attributes as Allah of being all-hearing? Do you believe that your silent voice and your silent prayer, the request that you make with just a movement of your lips, that Isa can hear you? Do you see the flaw in such a question? Do you see a flaw there? You should see the clear flaw. As Allah Ta'ala alone, He is the one who can hear you in each and every case when you call upon Him. And we do not attribute this to anyone else. The angels themselves, they are alive and they can hear. But do we believe that the angels are Sami'un, Basirun, Khabirun, that they are all hearing and all knowing and all seeing, as Allah is? If we believe that, we have made shirk with Allah by attributing the attributes of Allah to other than Allah. So the big flaw in such an argument is that we have no way of knowing if Isa can help you. If Isa comes back and he's standing in front of you, then you can ask him for that which he is capable of doing and that which is not specific to Allah, and he's present in front of you and alive. But without Isa being in front of you and you knowing that he can hear you, then you are committing shirk with Allah Ta'ala, and Allah knows best. And I believe that's the last question we have for this evening. If so, we'll end here saying Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. And I remind you that this is the night, or for me it's the night, and for you it's the end of the 22nd day of Ramadan, and it soon shall be the night of the 23rd, which means what? The night of the 23rd is from the witr, from the odd nights in the last 10 days of Ramadan, and it is a possibility that the 23rd night of Ramadan could be Laylat al-Qadr. So I remind you with the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, if you were to seek out the Laylat al-Qadr, you would say in all earnesty and sincerity to Allah Ta'ala alone with no intercessors, you would say Allahumma, calling upon Allah, innaka afuwun, without saying afuwun karimun, but you say Allahumma innaka afuwun. Oh Allah, you are the excuser, the one who excuses. And some people add kareem without there being an authentic narration to add that phrase. It is a good meaning. However, our act of worship of calling upon Allah with this phrase is tawqifi, something we have learned from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something that is restricted to textual evidence. We say, O Allah, innaka afuwan tuhibbul afu, you love to excuse. Allah is described with love that is befitting to His Majesty, and that He loves to excuse His servants. Fa'afu anna. So please excuse us. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'afu anna. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'afu anna. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'afu anna. Oh Allah, you are the one who excuses, you love to excuse, so excuse us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.